I remember we were sitting around the table and the OT was talking about some of the things that my father would need now and in the future. And my father said, what is this for? What is this for? And the OT said to him, "Oh, sir, don't you know you have dementia?" We had told him, he had forgotten. He said, you have dementia. And my father's face got really, he said, "Oh." And then he said, "And will I ever get better?" And he looked at the OT, and the OT was sort of like, "No." My father got really sullen again. And a few minutes later, he looked back at the OT and he said, "Will I ever get better?" And the OT looked at me, and I grabbed my father's hand. I held his hand across the table and I said, "No, Daddy, but we're going to be here with you." And I think for me, that's when it hit me, when he asked the second time, right after, and the look on his face. I think for me, that's when it hit that this is what we're going to be dealing with for the next little bit. My name is Ngozi, and I am a caregiver for my father, Felix. My father's in late-stage dementia. He was diagnosed in 2008, and since then, it's been myself as the primary caregiver and my brothers as well as my stepmother to support my dad in his journey. Before he got dementia, my father was very jovial. He loved to smile and laugh. And now he still likes to smile and laugh. There are moments of difficulty, moments of aggression, but other moments he's very happy. He'll walk by the mirror and he'll look at himself in the mirror and he'll start smiling and laughing with himself in the mirror. But on the other side of that, there is another element to dementia in the later stages. Making sure he eats, because he can forget to eat, watching his mobility, making sure he's not falling, helping him into the chair, helping him eat, at the same time allowing him or helping him maintain his dignity. There's no way we could feed him. He's not gonna let us feed him, but he'll wanna feed himself. It's a very shaky, unsteady hand. The days when he's having, I call it a moment. For example, he had, for many, many years, he had sundowning moments. And the geriatrician explained certain times in the afternoon, around 3, 4 o'clock, he would sundown. And that's when he would get restless. That's his most restless. And he would just start wandering, and they make a beeline for the door and just want to go wander. And I remember getting calls from our, the condo administrator. She would say, "Oh, Ngozi, your father just left the building. He's wandering in the parking lot." I'm like, "Well, go get him while I get over there. Why are you telling me, and bringing him back?" And he'd be combative and, "No, I don't want to go back." And, it's crushing. It's crushing. I always wondered if people know that they have dementia in the later stages. I guess we'll never know, but I know that he feels love when we are all around him. You could see his reaction to us when we hug him, when we talk to him, when we smile and laugh with him. His bodily responses, I would say, he knows that there's love there. Some people think dementia is individual. It's for the person going through it or the family members supporting that person going through it. But it operates at a community level when someone has dementia. A lot of people get affected by it. They say it takes a village to raise a child. It also takes a village to love someone through the dementia journey. When my father was diagnosed, I was 8, something. And, at the time, my friend's parents were not going through age-related health issues. My parents were a bit older than my friend's parents. So for example, when my mother passed away, no one else had gone through that. That was a very isolating experience. When my father got diagnosed, my friends were a bit older, but still to understand what that means, because my father looked quote unquote normal, right? He gets a diagnosis, but he's smiling at you. He might remember your name and have a conversation. So my friends were like, what are you talking about? It's fine. They were there as best they could be. And they would try to support me and rally around me when I was having bad days and bad moments. And I let them in. I let my friends in. I remember one thing I did, I talked to any and everybody about it. I didn't keep it within me. I didn't feel shame about it. I didn't feel shame this was happening to my family. I said, whoever is able to love and support us, come on in. And I think that helped to bridge gaps, to raise awareness. People gained some knowledge, and they knew how to support me and my family when we needed it. You know, it always sounds very hokey when you say, you know, you never know how strong you are until you're tested, that kind of thing, or, you know, God never gives you more than you can handle, that sort of, you know, thing. And a lot of people will balk at that and say, oh, I've had too much, or I must be the strongest person in the world then, and all that sort of stuff. But there is a resilience and a strength that comes from being a caregiver to someone with dementia. It may not be something that's apparent. You may not want to acknowledge it. You may like, I've gone through too much to care about how strong I am. But for me, I did find a strength and a resilience. I found a compassion that I didn't know was there. A compassion for life, for people's in struggle, for my family members. I found a compassion just for this whole process. When you get the news that someone has dementia, and when you start investigating what dementia is and what that journey will look like, a lot of panic, a lot of fear, a lot of grief and loss starts to percolate up. May not present fully, but it starts to percolate up a little bit. I had this feeling of I have to do it well. I have to do it the best way. I have to be, you know, absolute about it. And that's a lot of pressure that I put on myself that I didn't know at the time. I would tell myself, it's okay, that, you know, this is your family's journey, and it's okay, and you will be okay. And to plan as much as you can. You don't know what you don't know, right? So we didn't know, we didn't have a blueprint as to, you know, when to go to the doctor, what, you know, questions to ask. I knew a little bit more because I'd worked in the healthcare system, but there was still like a trove of things that I couldn't even begin to fathom. You know, things like power of attorney. What does it mean? How do you get it? The opposition you will face from your family when you want to implement it. How do you navigate those waters and those conversations? How to find the right lawyer to help you do that, who's empathetic to the situation. So less pressure on yourself. You're not going to get it right. It's never going to be perfect. You know, you will fail and mess up. You will forget to feed them because you're tired and exhausted. You might get upset sometimes, but understanding the humanity in all of this, their humanity as they're going through this journey, your humanity as you're going through this journey, taking that pressure off, being much more compassionate with yourself as much as you are with them, and where you can plan. And if you can, have your own support system, your own support network. Have outlets for the tensions and the feelings that you will go through. The work the Alzheimer's Society does in supporting family members and individuals with dementia, it's needed. I remember going to feeling really burnt out one year. I was just like, I couldn't do it. I couldn't think, I couldn't feel. I had numbed out. And I remember someone said to me, call the Alzheimer's Society and look about support groups. Okay. So I went to a few support groups, and they were very hospitable, very lovely. It was such an experience to be with other people who are going through the same thing you're going through. And you're all talking, and you're sharing, and you're feeling, and you're supporting. And it's such a validating feeling, like a weight is off your shoulders. My father was diagnosed in his 60s. And so, it affects people at any time of their lives. People think dementia, it's for grandma and grandpa when they're in their 80s and 90s. No, it's not. And the people that are affected by it are also not, later stages of life. So for me, it's important to be more proactive than reactive when it comes to dementia and dementia care, I think.